DrivingMaul show. Yes, here we are back for episode 2. We used to be called Rugby Chat, but we've been rebranded because we are now part of New Zealand Sports Radio. That's right, the station that's connecting with sport fans and also giving sport a platform. And join me this evening, I have Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you, Paul. Privilege and a pleasure to be on the rebranded New Zealand Sports Radio version of the show.
Just rugby, and more rugby. Hey, it's going to be the same sort of thing. But let's throw some structure around this and learn from our sister shows, Swinging from the Hip and the League Hour, and actually have a news section at the top of the show. As you can see, Stephen's looking at me blankly going, "Oh, Paul, what's this? We haven't done any prep." No, you're quite right. But some quick news updates, folks, as to the stuff that's going on. Dave Rennie is returning as the Wallabies coach, and he has just agreed to take a 30% pay cut, the same as the other senior members of the administration over there in Rugby Australia, for 3 months. And then because the Wallabies budget has been ring-fenced from that. Your thoughts on that, Stephen? The right move by him? A bit of a no-brainer, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's just putting it out there. You know, just. I think he's making a little bit of a statement more than anything else. Paul saying, "Hey, listen, whatever it takes, I suppose. You know, I'm prepared to take a pay cut." So he's just putting a marker in the sand, methinks.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right kind of move. It's not a permanent pay cut. It's only for 3 months, and then he'll be back to full pay. Sure, it's going to cost him $75,000, but that gives you a pretty good idea as to how much he's earning, which is like crazy money. Let's be blunt. So yeah, good on him to make the move, but I think a bit of a no-brainer there with that one. People suggesting that NRL and rugby should merge. Now, I'm not going to give that one too much airtime, but we'll have some fun thoughts about from Warren Gatland later about some of the new rules that are happening. But let's be honest, the big news is got to be New Zealand has returned, or will be returning, at midnight tonight. So what, in 4 hours' time, we will be at COVID level 1. And that means there are no restrictions on crowds or on meetings of people. It effectively means that New Zealand is back to normal, except our borders are still closed, which means crowds, and more crowds at the rugby, Stephen. You've got to be happy about that.
Yeah, I think so. I think the franchises will definitely be happy about that. And of course, if you actually think about it, how one particular game, we'll use the Highlanders. Now, who are they playing the weekend? Are they playing the Chiefs the weekend? Something like that will offer up 500 jobs, and you're talking from people, caterers, security, etc. So I think it's got to be a good thing for the economy in that region as well. Not just the rugby aspect, but all the things, all the layers that make it happen on game day.
No, it's a good point. I hadn't actually thought of it from that point of view. Also, people are talking about it clearly from the fans' point of view on the whole, and how people are happy about turning up for the rugby, and from that point of view, you touched on two things there. First off was the what do you call it? The franchises. Now we've got to remember the franchises in New Zealand, all of them apart from the Blues, are just something like 49% or 45% privately owned. Okay, and then the other just over 50% is owned by New Zealand Rugby. Now, the private owners basically don't make any money from the TV rights. They only make money essentially from ticket sales, and hence the franchises themselves were all going to be in obviously financial issues because they weren't going to make money from that this season. Now, what do we have? We had 6 rounds or 5 or 6 games before, depending on who you were before the break. Now we're up to, they're going to have another 10 rounds here. So I guess it's up to about up to 16 rounds. If you think that you have 18 rounds for and then finals, it's getting up to being pretty much a full season for those guys. And we're talking about here about them having the derby games, which get bigger crowds. So in the end, you might find the Super Rugby franchises actually make about the same sort of cash.
Yeah, similar. A lot's going to depend on what the quality of these games are going to look like. If we get some really, really good quality games, obviously there's a lot of initial interest, and we were talking about it pre-show. Is this really about is this really about a whole lot of people sort of wanting to be somewhere and basically part of something, or is this your legitimate rugby supporters that are just hungry to get some rugby?
Yep, absolutely. Now, he says he's coming off the long run. So here he is, the one, the only, John O'Connor. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you, gentlemen. Especially for you, I got the nice mug instead of the naughty one.
Oh, the nice mug. That's good. And it looks like he's in a tent there. Looking at
no, I'm lifting my Zoom game here, right? I'm trying to lift the standards of this broadcast a little bit, at least from my end.
There you go. He's also, John has kind of got the concept of a green screen and thinks he's got the Caribbean island behind him, except he's gone blue, not green. It's so close, John, so close, nearly there.
I'm blue, dabba-dee, dabba-da.
Oh dear. So we're just talking about Super Rugby and the crowds returning. So first off, there's the income side for the franchises, which is going to be big.
Right.
And then, Stephen, you made that good point there. That actually, yes, it's also creating jobs for people amongst the security, the food and beverage, and all of those sort of things. I must say, I agree, Charlie. We really do not want to encourage him too much.
Charlie, you're right. That's correct.
I did see someone tweet out saying, "What do you want from Super Rugby return? Do you just want the rugby, or do you want little sort of halftime concerts, activations, all those sort of things?" Johnny, do you think that with this short turnaround of only sort of really having a week's notice, that the Super Rugby sides will be able to put on a bit of a show?
Look, all I want from Super Rugby is for the Sharks to win, and I'm not going to get that. Right? So whatever I can get, I'm happy to take. I've had no sport for how long, right? I've been reduced to watching 25-year-old clips of Michael Jordan to try and satisfy my sporting needs. So absolutely, I'll take whatever they get. I'm Jimmy. I'll take what you give me.
Dear me. So there's, yes, John showing that he's not very choosy at all.
I'll even watch a competition entirely comprised of New Zealand teams. That's how desperate I am.
If only Six Nations was on, John would then be just like a pig.
I don't know. I don't know. It might require another 6 months of isolation for me to wake up in the middle of the night to watch the Six Nations. Oh my gosh.
So Stephen, what do you think? Do you think the franchises will have had time to improve their game day experience, or are you expecting pretty much same?
I'd be disappointed if they don't put something on, because they're going to get some really good crowds, and I think it's a really important thing that they put a really good game day experience on for those fans that are going in there. Now, they've started the right way by making the tickets. I think it's only about a $20 entry point, and kids are free, which is the first plus in my book. I would hope that they'd be basically working with transport authorities and you know, if you've bought a ticket and you can show that ticket, you get free transport into Eden Park or to the game. So, you know, I would hope that there's little things being done in and around the actual game day experience. And listen, if they come up with a good match, even better.
Gents, let's just be fair here. It is a short notice. The entire sporting community around the world, barring the billionaires that own NFL franchises, are experiencing major cash flow issues. And what they may want to do is to be conservative on the first weekend and see what the public response is. Because it's all very well to say that we're in level 1 in New Zealand, and the government says it's fine for us to congregate large crowds, etc., but you don't know how people are going to feel, whether they're going to feel safe to come out in thousands. So we hope they will, but we've got to see that from ticket sales, and that first injection of cash into the system, both from TV rights being paid as well as ticket sales. I think it's more reasonable to expect something of a game day experience in the second week.
Okay,
because you've got to pay those entertainers, right?
Actually,
I'm going to disagree strongly with.
Why does that surprise me?
So, before we move on to why I'm going to disagree with strongly, you were giving me an update as to some noise you've heard around around the crowd they're expecting at Eden Park.
Well, I'm hearing they could be up to 30,000 at Eden Park. Now, it brings me to a good point. We are still
watch the Blues.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, the Blues Hurricane. Well, there's been the good thing about it. They've got some really good publicity in the last week in and around.
They come to watch Hurricanes. That's what they're coming to watch.
Yeah,
okay,
obviously.
I mean, joking aside, guys, this is the most anticipated game of Super Rugby from a New Zealand point of view, right?
For a long time.
Bowden Barrett against the Hurricanes, right? This is not the Blues versus the Hurricanes. This is Bowden Barrett versus the Hurricanes, versus his old team. If you cannot fill the ground for this game with the fact that Dan Carter has also joined the Blues, now, I think any sane person doesn't think he's going to play any part of the game at the weekend, but
he must be on the bench, surely.
No. He's not going to be playing for a few weeks. He's not had any contact training at all. He's only just started training this week. So he needs 3 weeks to get up to speed. So anyone who's sane realizes he's not going to be in the match day 23. But that isn't going to stop people trying to buy tickets. If people cannot, don't turn up to the Blues versus the Hurricanes this weekend, they never will. Let's be blunt.
Well, I'm predicting there will be a big crowd. You just sort of get you listen to a lot of the talk on the social network. People, I think, are really excited. And I was about to say before, they've had some great free publicity with Dan Carter coming on board. For about a whole month, we've had a lot of publicity in and around Bowden Barrett, what he's been doing in terms of training. So I think there's a lot of hype in and around the expectation. From a safety aspect, though, we speak about the game day experience. I would hope that rugby is looking at specific protocols with so many people gathered in one area. I would basically hope that there's something on, sanitizers, stuff like that, things like that are on hand for the people that are attending this game, because I think you do make a good point. I think Paul made the point about there will be some people that just won't be too sure. I mean, so that's a really big thing in terms of what we've actually been through, to all of a sudden rock up and be part of a very, very big crowd. I know, talking to my own daughter, she'd love to take my 2 grandchildren along, but she's thinking, man, are they going to be safe? Amongst a lot of people. There's that little bit of doubt as well. But boy, the expectation of seeing some high quality sport is might be too much for people.
She's not worried about grandpa. Only worried about her kids.
Any reason for not turning up at the weekend, to be honest with you. But But Simon, Simon's putting that view across in the live chat there, that he would prefer a full season with no crowds and one weekend with crowds in case an outbreak happens again. I think we're in a good place. I think we've come out slowly enough out of down the stages that I don't think there is a risk of an outbreak. But that's a personal point of view. I understand other people will, as you made a good point there, Stephen, other people will not feel quite so comfortable in that side of things. So there is that side of things. But you are right. I mean, Ashwin makes the point in the chat that he, now whether we agree with where the blame lies, but he said, look, I was second guessing myself this morning catching the bus. Now, yeah, we have, you're right. So we have to remember 8 weeks of basically being around no more than about 5 or 10 people to suddenly be on a 30-person bus, or to be 30,000 people in a stadium. That is, yeah, it is a bit of it is going to be a bit of a shock to some people's systems.
That's because Ashwin's only in the last year been allowed to catch the bus by himself. So
we'd like. Oh, by the way, guys, we'd like to thank Ashwin for that party political broadcast.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we just know his wife's only allowed him to go unaccompanied to work in the last year or so. So just cut him some slack.
Charlie does make the point that look, that she works in the library. They've been asking people to social distance and use hand sanitizer. That should be stopping. But yeah, it is really. It is really a bit of a mind shift for people. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all kind of does pan out over the next weekend. Maybe I'm wrong. I should say, for me, this is the most anticipated game the Blues have played in, well, as long as I've been in New Zealand, which is only 6 years, whatever it is. But even so, this is the biggest game for them in a long time. Now, Simon makes a point there that they couldn't fill out Eden Park for the Mitre 10 Cup final 2 years ago, and the tickets then were free. But to be honest, Simon, they normally only get 1,000 people in for a game for a Mitre 10 Cup. So getting from 1,000 to 50,000 is a bit of a leap. Getting from the sort of 12,000 that I think the Blues get on average up to about 50,000. Again, it's a bit of a leap, but getting up to 30 and doubling that crowd, I think for this kind of game is there. Now, I was going to say I was disagree with John, and here's why. If you want to make a success, we've seen declining crowds for years. This is because the pent up demand of not being able to go out for 2 months. We know there's going to be more people at these games than normal. You've got to make it the best experience they've ever had to try and keep them coming back. Otherwise, I would say within about 3 or 4 weeks, we're back down to normal crowds. And I think they've got to realise that something has got to happen. They've really got to have they've really got to do something to try and reverse this trend of declining crowds. Otherwise, I just don't see why the increased numbers should stay. But so that's why I say you have to react, you have to go, and you have to be nimble enough, I think, to make the matchday experience better. But I get John. Yep.
The point here, gentlemen, is that those actions should have been done years ago. They should have been proactively done years ago. And what you've got at the moment is a whole bunch of people that have been let go, and a whole bunch of people that are on reduced salaries, and then you're going to spend a whole lot of money on bells and whistles. It's going to not create a good look among your own staff. I'm just saying that with consultation, as the crowds ramp up, you can say, look, we're trying to hold these people. You can consult and get them on board. But if you go, and I'm all for investing and keeping the people from coming back. And I think the biggest thing they've done is having afternoon games. I think that's terrific. It's such a boon to have games in the sunshine. So that'll be good for the rugby, and it's easier with kids and everything. So that's a good call. But yeah, I think it might be from a labor relations perspective to just go gangbusters with fireworks and marching bands and dancing girls and all of that, you know. Yeah, I think it might be a bad look first up until the cash starts to flow in.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on the marching girls and having those the cheerleaders a couple of years back who were just in skimpy outfits. Really, getting bad move by them.
I think you got it the wrong way around. It's not the marching girls and the dancing band. It's the marching band and the dancing girls. That's you went to the wrong stadium. I think.
Well, maybe. The Simon makes a point. Why did they change the time for the Saturday game? Now, John, this is going to. I'm sorry to upset
you. Oh no, I didn't know this.
I can answer that too, Paul. But you can answer.
Before you get there, Stephen, explain what the times are for the games.
That's a really good question. Well, it was.
Can you say that?
I can answer the question. Oh, sorry, I don't know the answer. Okay.
I haven't got the answer. I was just gonna tell you why they changed it. I wasn't gonna tell you what time they were. But if you give me 2 twos, I'll have a look and let you know exactly when they're starting.
Good dunk. There's the bus went over you.
Oh, yeah, I reckon he does. He's good like that.
The game on the Saturday was going to be about 5 o'clock, and it's been moved to 7 o'clock. The game on the Sunday is still remaining at the 3 o'clock kickoff time. So, Stephen, why did they change from 5 till 7 on the Saturday?
To accommodate the European audience, because it was going to be the first restart of live rugby, and what a great opportunity. That's what it comes down to.
I read something different. So I read basically that they said, well, actually what they wanted to do was let people go play their Saturday rugby, club rugby, go home, get changed, and then still get across town and make it to the game. And that's why they moved. So if you've got your 3 o'clock kickoff for your club rugby, you can watch the game. You can play your game. You can have a beer in the clubhouse afterwards, go home, get changed, grab the kids, and head back out for a 7 o'clock kickoff. Now,
in Auckland.
In Auckland, yeah.
Yo.
So okay. So maybe I'm wrong, but that was the so yeah. So
it's optimistic.
Simon, two different answers as to why they were changing it.
If you think about it, guys, that 7:05 was the original starting time for all Super Rugby this year at the top of the year. So I would suspect it's actually, not suspect. I'd sort of heard through the grapevine that it was there really primarily because it's the first professional game back. It's a wonderful opportunity. Those guys all up south to watch the rugby first thing in the morning.
So yeah, so both stories have come out. There's been 2 stories as to why they're changing it. But part of it also is that originally they were going to be flying in on Saturday, playing the game, having a shower, getting back to the airport, and flying back home again. With the move to level 1, the teams are going to be flying in. They're going to go back to the normal weekend of flying in, having the captains run the day before, have the game, stay overnight, fly home. So they don't need to get to the airport after the game as well, which allowed them to move it back. The 5 o'clock one was so they could get back to the airport in time and get home and be back in their beds before midnight or whatever.
Did I joining you? Did I miss the schedule of games? Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
No, just Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday, Sunday. I missed the two lineups. Obviously, Auckland, Wellington.
We're not actually on to the games yet. We're still just getting through formats and stuff. We'll get on to the games in a second, in about another half hour. So Simon, that's there you go. You've got multiple reasons to why they've changed it. No one really knows. There is the 3 o'clock game. The Sunday games though still are at 3:30. Sorry, 3:03, 3:30. In the afternoon. So the Auckland. So to bring John up to speed, the Saturday evening game is going to be the Highlanders versus the Chiefs at 7:05, and then the 3:05 on the Sunday at Eden Park is the Blues versus the Hurricanes. Those are the 2 games that we have on those. Was it a broadcaster influence? Was it a travel influence? I don't know, Stephen. Who knows as to which one. But let's be blunt here. Sky and New Zealand Rugby have worked extremely closely on this. Knowing somebody in a different sport who's trying to get back together, who are trying to get back up and running, and knowing how tightly involved the Sky TV and the sport are, Sky TV have been in every single one of those meetings around the scheduling. Let's be blunt. 3:35 on Sunday. Sorry, thank you, Ashwin. So yes, Sky TV has been involved in every step of the way around these schedules. Ashwin's going to double check the time for us. Thank you, Ashwin. Ashwin does say also that John on Friday night is going to be watching the bye, so he's just been watching the Crusaders as they have as they have their bye on the Friday night.
Don't tease me, really. Don't tease me. I've been waiting 25 years for the Sharks to win the Super Rugby, and this year we look like the best team, only one who could challenge the Crusaders, and look all so.
So it's going to be interesting from that point of view. Before we get on to the games, then, what about the new law variations? So let's just remind ourselves as to what the new laws are. If it's a draw after 80 minutes, then there's going to be 10 minutes of extra time with using a golden point. So that the first team to score will win the game, be that a drop goal, penalty, or try to win that game. There's a change for the well. First off, guys, thumbs up or thumbs down for the for golden point. John, have you understood the question, or are you just going to sit there and just wiggle your nose?
I'm normally not one for sitting on the fence, but you got to try. Yeah, okay. Probably in league play, I probably would give it a thumbs down.
Thumbs up.
When you need it in a semi-final or a knockout match, it's worth giving it a try. But probably in league play, we better be prepared to kiss our sister. It's probably a better to just live with the draw.
Exactly. Red card then. So for red cards, the player will be removed for 20 minutes. Oh, sorry, the player will be removed from the game, and after 20 minutes, the side will be allowed to put replace the player with a different player.
Wow.
So that's something that's been called for before. Again, quick one, boys. Thumbs up or thumbs down for that one. And that's got 3 thumbs down yet again for those who listen to the podcast. Now I know that is one that people have been saying that that a red card ruins a game for the fans. So hence let's. But to me, it's there for a reason. It's a stop foul play, and that should be enough.
Exactly.
Final one, the breakdown changes. Ball carriers will be allowed only one dynamic movement after being tackled. That's so stop people from crawling along the ground. Crawling or any secondary movement other than placing or passing will be penalised. Tacklers will be expected to roll away immediately in the direction of the sideline. This will be the referee's #1 priority at the tackle. And finally, there will be extra focus on the offside line, with defenders expected to be clearly onside to provide attacking teams more space. So, boys, thumbs up or thumbs down for the last one? And that's got three thumbs up there. Essentially, what we're really saying there is apply the laws as they're written, please, rather than. Let's see. Looking at the.
Can I just reply to Simon here? Simon says, "I think we should try it out and see how it works with the red card." My concern is that the red card is not given to protect the player who was on the receiving end of foul play. The red card is to protect all the players that are playing next weekend that could possibly be on the receiving end of the same foul play. So you can't retroactively protect the guy who's already been hurt or kicked in the head or tip tackled or clothesline, whatever it may be, shoulder to the head, whatever that may be. But you're trying to protect the players that are playing next week. And when I say the players that are playing next week, I don't just mean the professional players. It's every player throughout the world, right down to the junior level, who happens to see that game and see the results. And if a red card not only costs the player the rest of the game, but costs his team the game, and that protects thousands of people playing rugby around the world next week. Sorry that the game was ruined, but that's the purpose of the red card.
I tell you what, I've just had a bit of a change of heart actually. Now that I've digested it a little bit more, I do wonder in situations where you get, say for example, a high kick and it's contestable, and a player just gets his timing just a little wrong, just a little bit off. I just wonder in that situations, maybe the 20-minute red card, is it because I don't think he's sought out to make any foul play, or it's a little bit like the tackle where somebody, you're going in to make a tackle and the guy slips in front of you. Well, we saw a classic example in a Super Rugby game. I don't know if it was this year or earlier last year, where a player was given a red card. But you know what? It could have actually gone the other way, because the guy was leading with his elbow, and the guy leading with his elbow slipped, and the other fella who was making the tackle ended up putting in the high shot and getting a red card. And it was really interesting. They slowed it down and they looked at it and they said, gee, if the guy had actually gone in, he would have been sent off. So it could have gone either way unintentionally, shall I'm saying. So
we do get more red cards than they used to. You used to basically have to punch someone about 20 times before you red carded. So
unless you're an All Black.
And then yes.
Oh
dear.
I told you, off the long run. I haven't even told you why yet. You haven't even asked me how I'm doing, so I could explain.
No. I haven't asked you how you're doing. I'm sorry, John. But look, to make you feel a little better, Simon does say in the live chat that you do have you made a valid point about the red cards. I think one thing we've got to admit here is, okay, on the golden point, I think we're in line with the general consensus from what is Twitter, which obviously is how everybody really feels. On the red card one, we're going against the general consensus on Twitter. This is something that people have been asking for a long time, and want to have tried. So I get that public opinion is with this replacement of of a player with the red card. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I do think that we are going to Jordan. One of the questions was, would we see teams put on a player just to deliberately go out, hurt the opposition's best player early to get him off the pitch and then get replaced after 20 minutes? I don't, at the professional level, I don't think we have to worry about that under these days.
If you go back to
the Battle of Nantes,
guys,
not nowadays.
I was going to say, this is not WWF, guys. Where some of these guys are really going out to doing some serious damage. I think it would be. I think there's within professional players, I think there is a code of conduct. I think the guys actually play the game because they actually love the game, and I think there's just too much at stake for a player just to go out there and have somebody deliberately with a dirty reputation and do that. I would like to think the game has actually moved on from that. If that's what a coach or a team is looking at doing, I'll tell you what, just make the suspension a whole year, or make it longer. Yeah. If that's what you're going to do, you're going to spend a hell of a lot of time on the sideline.
I think though what we're losing here, and I know you want to move on, Paul, but I think it's really important to consider the fact that the whole reason why they're enforcing these rules is to shift the onus onto the player to ensure that the tackler aims lower. So if you're concerned that the guy might duck, then aim lower so that you won't be penalized. Because what they're trying to do is put the onus on the guy who's tackling, who's moving into the contact, to make sure that he makes contact low down. So it's your job to make sure that you tackle him low. So if he's a small guy and you're a big guy, get down and tackle him low. And the same when it comes to chasing up a kick. If you are not sure that your timing is spot on, pull out. And if that discourages kicks and chase, it's actually not that bad for the game. Because the person who normally gets taken out is the receiver who's coming onto the ball and jumps. And the chaser is normally the one that takes him out. So if it becomes, because people are loath to take a chance on getting a card, even a red one, and if that means that they pull out rather than, unless they know that they're perfectly timed, and therefore it becomes increasingly more difficult to win back high box kicks, I don't think that's bad for the game.
John, I'd like to see a situation where if the players are looking at the ball in the air, I think the official should at least take that into, take that into consideration. If a player, if two players are looking at the ball in the air, I mean to say,
if you are the chaser,
it's contestable. It's contestable.
If you are the chaser, if your player kicks or you kick and chase, and that ball goes up, you are responsible to do this. The guy who's receiving the ball, he goes up, he's got the rights. And what do we want? We want more ball in hand anyway.
There's also listening to Green and Gold Rugby a couple of years ago. Now, with this, one of the obviously most favourite players in rugby, Israel Folau, was obviously known as being a fantastic in the air. Whatever else you feel about him off the pitch, but on the pitch, great player in the air. And they argued that, we're going back to Conrad Smith, so we're going back to about 2015-ish, that's 2014, 2015. And one of their arguments was that Conrad Smith would do exactly what you're talking about there, Stephen. He would look up in the air, run straight through the landing zone. So it looks like he's looking up in the air, but reality is he's making it dangerous for anybody who jumps. And that's basic. So that's one of the reasons why this came in. Now, I say that's a Green and Gold Rugby, clearly an Australian rugby podcast. So whether the All Blacks were or weren't doing that, I'll let you. I'll let you go back and watch the footage yourselves and make that decision. But it just gives you an idea, a reason as to why you can't say, okay, if you're looking up, you're okay. Now, we do have a serious moment for us all, folks.
Brace yourself, Steve.
Yeah, we're going to brace ourselves here. John, please tell us, how are you?
Dude, I've got a problem. The problem is, first of all, I've discovered since this weekend something I wish I'd known in the height of our lockdown, and that is the sheer joy of watching YouTube clips of younger people, millennials, discovering great music for the first time. To hear somebody listen to Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin and pause the video and say, these guys can really know how to play their instruments, just made my day, right? To hear somebody go, this lead singer for U2 is not bad. I've loved it. But then something happened today. There was an article where Jonathan Kaplan was asked to comment about Bryce Lawrence and Bryce Lawrence's performance in 2011. And I thought I was over it, boys. I really did. And I just, after all the joy that I got from seeing people hear Karen Carpenter's voice for the first time, just soured. It really is. It's soured.
Right there. Well, having just seen our live watcher numbers drop through the floor, thank you.
Thank you for this therapy session. Your compassion and empathy is moving. Right?
I'm sorry, but anyone who listens to anything Jonathan Kaplan says really does. I'm sorry, but he may have been a good referee in his day, but boy, oh boy, does he just like to make noise about other people's refereeing nowadays? And he just, has been a dinosaur.
No, what he said was very fair and very okay, because he said that it's nonsense to think that Bryce Lawrence had an agenda. So he actually defended him. He said from that perspective. He just said he had a poor performance on the day, and he looked like he froze and didn't make decisions. And he thought it was odd that he could be in the top 5 referees in the world, have one bad day, and then never referee a test again. That appeared odd to him. One bad test doesn't make you a whole bad referee. Right? So
I was going to say, sometimes at World Cups, some referees do have bad days. You go right back to Paddy O'Brien, France v Fiji. I forget what year that might have been 2007 as well. And Paddy made some really crucial decisions, crucially bad decisions in that match. You could arguably say Wayne Barnes made a couple of little errors in the All Blacks France game in the quarterfinal in 2008. You know, sometimes very good referees do make mistakes. It's one of those things.
It's one of those things. Mistakes will happen. Craig Joubert missed some things in 2011 in the final, right? Mistakes happen.
Can't remember
they
that.
do happen.
Seriously?
Mistakes happen. But the thing about the Lawrence performance was it was a sustained across the whole game that David Pocock had the Harry Potter cloak of invisibility. Somebody passed him in the change room. And South Africa had 75% possession, and he kept on playing the ball in an offside position, slowing the ball down. So it was continuing. Different kind of scenario to the odd, like the forward pass. And
we've had 2 months of looking backwards, folks. Can we please look forwards now? We've had 2 months of no rugby, looking back, doing retro shows. Finally, we have.
Are you trying to say I must forget what lies behind and focus on what lies ahead and press on towards the prize to win the goal? Is that what you're saying here, Paul?
Absolutely. Because you know what, we could go
back.
Enough
with the wise advice, man.
I could go back and talk about the second half of the 2003 Rugby World Cup final, where the scrummaging was totally ignored. But anyway, we're not going there.
Enough with the sound and practical, you know, sort of like, this is what you should do, John.
Yeah.
Enough of that now. Just give me, just a little vent, little steamy things, and yeah.
Leave that baggage in the past. On we go. Now, Charlene likes Nigel Owens. Fantastic. Yeah, good referee. Perhaps lets too much go nowadays. Used to be really good. I think he's become a bit more a caricature of himself in some ways.
Seriously?
What?
Jordan. Go.
No. I disagree. I disagree, Paul. I think Nigel Owens. I think he's one of these referees that knows how to read the room. No matter what level.
Unlike Jordan.
He's out.
Jordan.
And more than anything else, what I do like about Nigel Owens, he's having a bit of fun, you know, while he's doing it. And to be honest, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes in a game. And if he does make the odd mistake, he apologizes. He just shows that he's a human being. There's a lot to watch in the modern game. I think he's one of the great referees. I really do.
I think we should absolutely turf out this expectation that referees will not make mistakes. Players make mistakes in games. Referees will miss things. The three of them, stuff will happen. It's going to happen. What we're looking for is consistency, and what we're looking for is refereeing the laws aptly. And if they miss something because it happens at high speed, you know, this is the human side of the game. Just like great players, great backline players, sometimes they drop the ball.
So, looking forward to this weekend. Highlanders versus the Chiefs. Just something that Gatland has talked about. So he came out and said he was asked about about these new laws, and he said, I know rugby league has been doing it for a long time, and there is nothing wrong with looking at other sports and seeing what's working well for them. It's been a huge success in rugby league, and if it can be successful in this competition, maybe they'll embrace that and use it going forward. We can all benefit and learn from each other, and these are positive initiatives. Oh dear. Talk about reading the room. Gatland, please, no, we don't want to copy more rugby league laws. We've already got the 50-22 rule that we borrowed, that we've copied from them. And now
when is that being trialled?
Oh, that was being trialled before. Hang on, was that in Super Rugby? It was in Global Rapid Rugby.
Right.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure. I've gone. Oh, I thought it was in Super Rugby already, but maybe not.
No, I didn't see it this season. Prior to this, certainly that 50-20 I didn't see.
Okay. So he's happy with those. So maybe the 50-22 one isn't, or the 22-50 one, sorry, isn't. Yeah, kicking from your own 22, kicking from 50 instead of 22. Yeah. Anyway,
the Springboks have already set up for that law because their wings are back, and then they rush up, so they're already hanging back and rushing forward from the outside. So, thank you, Ashwin. Global Rapid only, he says.
Okay, so that one isn't there. But yes, there does seem to be this approach of so a bit like also one of the optional laws that New Zealand isn't taking up that's returned to play for COVID is if you're held up over the line, it's a dropout from under your 22. So there's an awful lot of laws that Rugby Union are looking at from Rugby League at the moment. I'm not sure moving them together is a good idea.
No, hang on a second. If I'm attacking,
yes,
this is maybe I misunderstood when I read this law. If I'm attacking, I got the ball, I get over the line, and I don't get it down.
Yep.
Then it's a 22 dropout.
No, a dropout from under the posts.
I'm sorry, a dropout from under the post. I don't get a 5-meter scrum anymore.
No, you do in New Zealand. You do in New Zealand. Okay, it's purely COVID rules. So
why?
To reduce the number of scrums from a health and safety point of view.
Oh, they want to reduce scrums.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a COVID virus thing. It's not a
Okay, and because we are at the point of being COVID free, then we All right, I get it.
Yeah.
I always get extremely concerned when we reduce the penalty for infringements or poor play or whatever it is in the area close to the defending line, because it encourages foul play, cheating, slowing down, whatever. If the penalty is not high, then you rather give away whatever it's going to cost rather than 5 or 7 points. So that's always my concern.
Yep. So big some changes from the Highlanders. So they will have 2 new players. Vilimoni Karoi and Nay Milner-Scudder will be available for the Highlanders. On the Chiefs side of things, they have added loose forward Simon Parker to their squad. Not sure who Simon Parker is, to be honest. I'm not expecting to get much game time for the Chiefs, but I think Karoi and Milner-Scudder will be getting game time for the Highlanders. Good additions to the Highlanders squad. Also, we've heard they're going to be using Ioane at 10, not at 12. So, boys, are we expecting an uptick or an improvement in the Highlanders compared to their kind of performance before the lockdown?
It's quite interesting, guys. Both of these teams, I almost think the break couldn't come quick enough, especially for the Highlanders. I think they need this break. Was almost has given them the opportunity to sort of reassess, well, not so much them, their coaching staff in terms of the way that they play the game. Yeah, sure, the likes of Nehi Milner-Scudder and Vilimoni Karoi will offer them a little bit of firepower out wide, but I think it's important that Ioane goes back to number 10 to make that happen. I think they might be better than what they were before. The problem what they're coming up against is a Chiefs team that as a pack hunts really, really well, and they get a couple of guys back as you know, the Chiefs were running around in the first part of their competition with their back five were pretty much loose forwards, weren't they, guys? So they didn't have the likes of Michael Allardyce available or even Lachlan McQuannell. And I see both of those guys are now available for selection, so they will have some locks in there. But the thing I do like about the Chiefs is at their strength in their front row. And man, you look at their backline. Their backline is as good as any team in the competition. In fact, when they click, they're probably outside the Hurricanes, without a Bowden Barrett, probably the best backline that you've got. No, I think for me personally, I think it's an uphill battle for the Highlanders. That would be an incredible turnaround if they are to beat the Chiefs.
Yep.
Who is still out? Sorry, I interrupted you, Paul.
I don't think the Chiefs were looking forward to I didn't think the Chiefs needed the break. I thought the Chiefs were going well before the break. The Highlanders, yes, they needed the break. But I thought the Chiefs, 4 wins, 2 losses for the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs started well. They were rotating their players well. And I thought they were looking good.
Steve, don't feel bad. He's just going to disagree with everybody tonight.
No. I actually thought, well, if you think about it, they had in round 4 they had lost to the Brumbies, and they were pretty well beaten by the Brumbies, and don't forget they were also beaten at home by the Hurricanes as well. So I actually thought they were a little bit up and down. I'm sort of looking at how many rounds did we get in? Round 6, of course, they had that good win against the Waratahs in round 6. Round 7, that's when they lost to the Hurricanes. And then before we got to round 8, then we had the cancellation. So I actually thought they were a little inconsistent, Paul. Yeah, sure they looked good against the Blues first up, but I think that, to be brutally honest, I think the Blues actually butchered that game, having such a big lead at half time and not being able to manage to close that game.
So my predictions are available on drivingmaul.com. They're locked to supporters of New Zealand Sport Radio until Friday morning. And Friday morning, I'll unlock them to the public. But going to be interesting there, that one. And any comments on this game, Stephen? John, before we move on to the next game?
Yeah, I've always got a soft spot for the Highlanders, although I live in Hamilton, and of course I want to see the Chiefs do well. But there's always just the sense that the Highlanders are a team that is punching above their weight and really, really plays on the back of a team and family spirit. So I really would like to see that they have recovered well from their injuries. I really would like to see Nehem Mulder-Scudder perform well. I really hope that he's over his shoulder issues after all these multiple surgeries. And I do think that he adds a tremendous amount to the All Blacks if he's properly fit and available for selection. I think that some of the wing issues were shown up in the World Cup for the All Blacks, and I think he's a good solution to that. He's also very good as a fullback, so he's both good on attack and covering in defense as a wing for the All Blacks. And he's one of the players in the world that I would pay money to see if he's fit and firing. He's a wonderful rugby player to watch.
Absolutely, I hope to watch him on the weekend. Then the Blues versus the Hurricanes. The Blues will obviously have Caleb Clark, who was fully available. He was distracted by the sevens earlier. They've added Tamati Tau to their midfield stocks. The Hurricanes, on the other side, are the only team in Aotearoa Super Rugby that have not added players to their squad. The team, Hurricanes, for me, a side that I think we all thought were going to struggle with the loss of Bowden Barrett, and obviously that opening loss over in South Africa, 27-0 to the Sharks. I think we all thought they were going to struggle, but they turned things round, showed they've got spirit in that squad, and I think proved a few of us wrong with some of their performances before the break.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, their performance at Newlands, albeit that the Stormers were a bit below par, there were a couple of questionable actions that were highly controversial by the Hurricanes there. But still. They performed, the step from where they were the week before in Durban versus Cape Town was huge.
Stephen, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, they're not going to lack any motivation. It'll be fresh in their mind what happened down in Wellington. If we think back to that game, they ended up with 13 players on the field, and they were still pretty competitive at the end of the day. The real interest to me is Ari Savia. Is he fit and available for this game?
I don't think he's back. I could be wrong.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
He might be training. He certainly would have been handy under the circumstances. I think the Blues will go into this game as favourites based on the fact that it is home, and I think there's going to be a bit of expectation around them. That could be the only issue for the Blues, is maybe being complacent. But on saying that, I'm pretty sure Baden Barrett will have an influence of sorts with this team. I'm really looking forward to it, guys. This really has the potential to be a cracker, even though it's got maybe a bit of a pre-season feel to it.
So in normal Super Rugby, this finished, as you say, before the lockdown. Blues one down in Wellington at 15-24, and in Aotearoa. On pronunciation there. Rugby, Super Rugby. We'll see whether that changes or not. Finally, we come to look, folks. I just want to be crystal clear here. This is not me making deliberately making jokes about pronunciations of Maori words. I am dyslexic. I do find it very difficult to read these words. And also, having not been brought up with these noises, I do find it very difficult. And it's not a lack of respect for the language. I promise.
He was asking, can you say Sia Kolisi?
Sia Kolisi.
Oh my word! I just shake my head.
I just try and say it as quickly as possible to avoid having to just kind of hide the fact that it's going to be said so bad. The Crusaders having a bye now. They have they've got the best addition to their squad. Sam Whitelock is the addition that they've made to the squad. So clearly he's going to strengthen the Crusaders like they needed it anyway. Is there an advantage, guys, to sitting out this round? They've got a week extra preparation, having come out of lockdown. They got a week longer pre-season, as it were. They get to see how the other teams react and how the law changes are being strengthened. Is this so, John? Is this a good move for the Crusaders having the bye week?
It is. I really believe it is, because you certainly were doing so much of your prep. Up until fairly recently, you only allowed groups of 10 people together. So interlinking drills, had to be 5-on-5. You couldn't have two sets of 8s up against each other. You couldn't have a full backline against a full backline, whatever it is. So obviously they were doing things, but they couldn't be in the full configuration, right? That you would during practice. So yes, I think it will help them. Not that they needed the rest, but just that for that cohesion time. The irony is, of course, that the most cohesive team in Super Rugby already was the Crusaders. So they're probably the team that needed the time the least of the 5.
Yep. Stephen, your thoughts?
Yeah, don't disagree too much. How many titles have these guys won? 9, 10 Super Rugby titles. They haven't won these titles by fluke or by mistake. They'll be motivated, and this being a different sort of competition, they'll want to make a statement. So their first up game is against the Hurricanes the following weekend. Although they will travel away for that first up game. I mean, so the likes of the Hurricanes might be better for it, having a game under their belt. The only other player I was thinking was David Havili. Is he back in the frame, or was he still out of the squad altogether at this time, Paul?
He's got you back, Paul.
Yeah. Nice.
Right at the death, you got him, Steve. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear me. Yeah, the late in-swinging Yorker there to take me out. Nice one for that.
Smoke cruncher. Walker unit. Random walker unit.
I'll be honest. Having seen how poorly he looked and how much he was in hospital, how close he came to having a real problem. To my mind, I don't think he's back. But I could be wrong. I think he was going to. I think it was a season-ending injury, ending surgery for him. But I could be wrong. Ashwin says he thinks he's out for the season.
Maybe we should get Ashwin to chair this thing rather. Steve, what do you think? Ashwin seems to know what's going on really well. Maybe we should get him to chair the discussion on Monday nights.
I think he's pretty tied down to swinging from the hip these days, but he's been a great contributor. He's been a great contributor this evening.
He might have a nicer hat as well. Just
a nicer hat. Hang on, right. Well, that's it. So that's John O'Connor muted for the rest of the show. Moving on then. Some news from overseas that we've not had time to touch on. Major League Rugby has announced the name of the Dallas team. It's going to be called the Dallas Jackals, which I think is a bit of a dodgy name because it's very close to being jackasses. But Simon makes a point that it's perhaps an improvement on the LA Giltinis, which is the other new team. I'll be honest. When we had the Gilgronis, which is the Houston side there, which is obviously the name of a macaroni style cocktail for those laughing away in the background.
You can resist one Gilgroni, please.
So the Gilgronis it was humorous.
Gilgronis for everyone.
The Giltinis one afterwards, which is obviously a martini style cocktail. You got to say, really, once funny, second not so funny, and the Jackals. Well, yes, I get the name, but I'd say I think too close to jackass if they're not playing very well.
Oh my word!
Ashwin does say yes, but you do jackal the ball. Well, true. Yes, it is a rugby term, so it's not too bad. Not too bad. There. But Simon says, funny enough, there are no jackals in Texas. Well, yes. There's been all sorts of. There were no raptors in Colorado either. But still.
What's a Gilgroni? Yeah.
Okay. So now that Stephen has managed to compose himself to a name I mentioned 5 minutes ago. Gilgroni is an awful tasting cocktail, and Gilgroni is a premix of that that's branded. That's basically a bit like a.
Go Gilgronis! Come on, Gilgronis!
Okay. So,
Go, you Granny!
Thank you, everybody.
Ask me if my team's improving.
It's the Gilgronis, is your team improving?
There's sweet jackal improvement, man.
Deary me. So, folks, thank you everybody for the DrivingMaul show and listening to the DrivingMaul show. We come to you live on a Monday now, 8 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and so you can listen to the podcast. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on iTunes or Spotify. I'm trying to hold it together with two guys basically rolling around on the floor in laughter.
Professionals, real professional.
Real professional.
Real professional.
We'll be back in the morning. We'll be back in the morning with this morning sports briefing.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Briefing is every single morning. Your best way to start the day up to date with all with important sports news. Tomorrow, I have
he's just soldiering on.
Going up at 2 p.m. If you would like to do sport, I'm looking for 2 teams tomorrow. You and mates, do join us. Good night, everybody. Oh dear! What a mess.
Make sure you've got Stephen's Jill Crony ready tomorrow.